Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Mari Reisberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Lucy Liu. She's a certified life coach helping women in life transitions beat overwhelm, see clearly, reach new goals, and live a happier, fulfilling life. She also hosts a weekly podcast called The Lucy Liu Show and has been featured in Medium, VoyageLA, Elephant Journal, and ThriveGlobal. Please enjoy Lucy Liu. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today, I am here with Lucy Liu. I'm so excited to chat with you about creativity. You have your own podcast. You also are a life coach and have some really interesting work out there in the world and supporting women and supporting entrepreneurs. I love it. I can't wait to hear more. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Mari. It's such an honor.
I love it. Yay. Well, wonderful. I feel honored to have you as well. If you wouldn't mind just taking a couple minutes to let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Oh, yeah. So as you mentioned already, I am a life coach. I personally transformed my own life from at one point feeling overstressed, unhappy, unhealthy, to living my dream life now of joy, fulfillment, and mindfulness. So it is my passion to help other women in life transitions to see clarity, get unstuck, reach new goals, and kiss overwhelm goodbye and just live a happy, joyful, thriving, fulfilling life. And yeah, I would love to talk about anything pretty much, in terms of self-development, because self-development is such a great topic and it's a lifelong learning experience.
Absolutely. And I love all of those things that you talked about and just transformation, your own personal transformation. I mean, I feel like I have had multiple opportunities and transformations myself, and that has really set me up to where I am today. And I love you talk about mindfulness because I feel like that's so important and it really lends itself so well to the world of creativity. So I'm super excited to hear what you have to say about how it kind of weaves together in the world of creativity. So when you think about creativity, what does it mean to you to be creative?
I think as I grew up, by definition, so when we hear the word creativity, it usually involves some kinds of imagination but as I grew older, when I hear the word, it's not only inclusive of just artistic work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It to me also means to just being human, being alive, just being you means being creative, right? I honestly think we are all creatives. As long as you're living and breathing, you must be creating daily, right? You're creating your life.
Absolutely.
You're creating tangible, intangible things all day long. You make a post on Instagram, you're being creative. You make a new dish at home, you're being creative. You are absolutely creative and amazing and remarkable and everything else you ever thought you're not.
I love it. And what a great reminder that even when we make a post on social media, that's actually being creative. There's some creating that's going into it, some thought, some intention, or something we like, and we're sharing it with other people. And I think that also has that, the recipe of creativity within it. So I love that reminder that we all have the opportunity to be creative in little tiny ways. It doesn't have to be the big performing arts ways that many of us growing up or even today still feel that creativity is kind of sectioned off for the performing arts. Nice. I love it. And how about for yourself, when you think about being creative, what's something that really like gets you excited these days creating?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm probably creating all day, but like I said earlier, in my early memories of being creative, obviously it only meant artistic works.
Mm-hmm.
So I did take drawing lessons, art classes where I did penciling, doodling, painting. So those things were definitely in my books. And
Mm-hmm.
I would say watercolor was my favorite. I
Nice.
still have a couple of watercolor pieces I did from childhood still hanging in my dining room right now. And I definitely believe that being creative when you're young sets a foundation for a
Mm.
happy life.
Mm.
So I also played, like you mentioned, performance arts, dancing. Well, actually, I did dancing
Yeah.
and orchestra,
Mhm.
tall flag. I did all these things. And I think they set you up as a foundation for life. Anything artistic, performance, they're
Yeah.
like tools in your toolbox that you get to pick up if you ever choose to,
Mhm.
whenever you need to.
I love it. And I absolutely agree. It's great to have that foundation. And as kids, I think so much of it comes pretty easily. We're in that imaginative space. And then as we get older, things shift and we might lose a little bit of it. So it's good to be reminded that we innately have some foundation of creativity in our life, and how do we tap back into it? So great reminders. I imagine that you also have experienced some challenges in your life, and I wonder how you've navigated those and if any of them have involved creativity.
I think the biggest block from being creative or thinking we're creative or not is the limiting belief that gives us the false belief that we are not creative, right?
Mm,
We all
yeah.
have this little voice in our head that's telling us, oh, you're not a creative. You're just everyday Joe. Like, we all have those negative self talking days. For example, I used to think I'm a bad writer. I'm a economics major. I used to love math. I hated English class, right?
Mhm.
So I always thought I'm such a bad writer. I will never write. I hate essays, blah, 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 whatever you tell yourself. So I never really write. But
Mhm.
earlier this year, I wrote a couple articles, for example, for the Elephant Journal or ThriveGlobal. And I
Nice.
actually, when I sent people these articles, they complimented me on what a great writer I was. And I was like, whoa, I was shocked
I
by
love when that happens.
I was like, what? Me? Whoa, right? By simply starting to believe that I am indeed a great writer, I am currently in 2 co-authoring opportunities
That's incredible.
of next year, 2021. I am also aspiring now to be an author of my own books. So you see, we're usually our own blocks. We
Yeah.
self-impose these glass ceilings that traps us from being more creative and doing the things that we have the potential to do.
Absolutely. And it also sounds like you had some external support in shifting that narrative for yourself. What a, how awesome is that?
Yeah. Well,
Sometimes you need that
I
external
do have
help.
to mention, obviously, I am a coach. So, and I absolutely believe every coach needs a coach, and
Yes.
many coaches work with many other coaches. So,
Mhm.
along the way, we look for mentors and coaches to accomplish what we want to accomplish. And for me, what it looks like is I want to set an example for my clients.
Mhm.
So, very often I'm reflecting on myself. What
Yeah.
fear do I need to break? What limiting beliefs do I need to break next? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm constantly trying to reflect on what I can do to better myself. And of course, I'm content, I'm happy with my life, but there's always room for improvement and setting these goals. And it's all about having fun. It's
Absolutely.
not about killing yourself for not accomplishing your goals. If you're hating goal setting, you're doing it wrong.
Right. That's a great reminder. That is like, if you hate setting goals, then what's a way that we can set goals that you don't hate? I love that. I think that's great. And in a similar capacity as a therapist, I think every therapist needs a therapist. You have to have someone to process your own work with, and so you can continue to grow and show up for your clients or coaching clients to the best of your ability. So I think I fully support coaches having coaches and therapists having therapists. And I think it offers even more opportunities to get creative in your own personal growth. So I think that's awesome. It just sounds like you are so easily inspired by little things, big things, but these days, who or what inspires you?
Oh my gosh. So how many hours do we have? Because I'm going to have to list like 1,000 names, right?
Go for it. List them.
No, but this question is really hard to answer because I'm here today because so many people
Yeah.
or things that inspire me along the way. It's the collective of everything I've learned along the way of life. And
Mhm.
I believe that inside each of us, inside each of you who are listening, tuning in, the well of wisdom is inside of you. It's inside of
Mm.
me, it's inside of you. It's just that sometimes we don't really see it. It's like hidden behind the bushes. So along the way of life, we get inspired,
Yeah.
by the smallest things. And it's like every inspiration point, we're cleaning off those bushes that's covering our well of wisdom. And eventually you'll realize you've had this wisdom all along,
Mm.
but you have to be open and acceptive to what's out there, right?
Yeah.
You're scrolling your IG feed and what inspire you? What are you learning? You can ask yourself, what are your intentions when you receive? Like,
Mhm.
right? So that's very important because you can let it be an inspiration
Mhm.
or not, right? Some people choose to look at things differently. Some people are like, oh, they have it better than me, or
Right.
they're in like comparison,
Mhm.
right? So it's how you have the open mind to look at opportunities and let each person that you cross paths with, I
Mhm.
can even say, I always say this to my client, thank all your exes, right?
Yeah.
Start with there. Everyone is an inspiration to be a better you.
Mhm.
So
That's great. Everyone's an inspiration to be a better you. I love it. I want it on a pillow. I can put it on a throw pillow.
and when I believe it that way, so no matter what happens in life,
Mhm.
things becomes circumstances, and
Mhm.
circumstances are neutral. You get
Mhm.
to put a positive or negative to it, right? Just
Yeah.
like we're recording this us in 2020, we're in
Mhm.
this pandemic. I don't know when this episode will actually be alive, but
Yeah.
however, we'll still probably be in this pandemic.
We definitely will still be in the pandemic with the rate we're going right now. Yes.
But what's important is that we all have our low days, right?
Yeah.
Did I get anxiety attacks along the way? Yes, probably
Mhm.
many times. But it's how you pick yourself up, how
Mhm.
you use what you have learned along the way,
Yeah.
um, it's like when I talk, if I'm giving a 10-minute speech, it's so hard to quote everybody because it's these wisdom that came from a collective of hundreds and hundreds of probably inspirational or motivational speakers that I've listened to.
Yeah.
It's that collective energy. And I think you just have to be surrounded with the type of energy you want to be surrounded with, or the type of energy you want to give others, because it's like
Yeah.
a mirroring society,
Mm-hmm.
right? We mirror our own, habits and reactions, and it's the same way
Yeah,
with
I love that.
external circumstances.
Right. Talking about surrounding yourself with the energy that you want more of. I think there's also opportunity to, you know, surround yourself with it and also reach out for it. Reach out for what you want in your life and what inspires you. You were talking about Instagram, scrolling through and being inspired. What inspires you on Instagram these days?
Well, community,
Yeah.
influence. It doesn't matter what the other person is. They could be a fashion blogger. They still inspire me because they said something positive. So,
Yeah.
absolutely important that you're surrounding yourself with the right followers, right? You
Mhm.
can always social detox.
Yeah.
You can mute people. Okay, you press those three little dots. If they're not inspiring you, if they're they're
Yeah.
putting out negative content, you mute them, you delete them, right? But if you
Mhm.
don't want to delete them, you mute them so you don't see their posts. So
Yeah.
everything that you see should fuel you,
Mm,
right?
that's a
Everything
great
should be
reminder.
positive. When I scroll through Instagram, my brain, my life, my business should somehow be fueled. And that's
Mhm.
why I'm on social media. Social media can be toxic, but it can
Mhm.
also be great. I've met so many amazing women. I've talked to so many amazing women. I've found clients. I found
Mhm.
my own coach on Instagram. It's just such a beautiful world out there, and it depends on how you approach it.
Absolutely. I love it. And you were talking about community, and I imagine you have a vast community. And how does your community impact or influence your creativity these days?
Well, it has everything to do with creativity
Mhm.
because you can only be creative, or you can actually be progressing and moving forward when you're thinking positive. And
Mhm.
we all start from zero. I got to say, I always
Yeah.
say this. I started my coaching business when I was abroad.
Okay.
I was like, well, I lived in a foreign country. I lived in Asia for about 15 years before I
Mhm.
moved back home. I found a coach. Like, I was eyeballing her for a long time. And I'm like, I'm going to work with you in 2 years when I move back to Los Angeles. And she's like, why? Why do you have to wait? Right. So we always have these doubts about ourselves. And when you actually start working with a coach, you just expedite that process. And
Yes.
therefore, so I actually started my coaching business when I was not even in the country. And I had zero followers to begin with. I had
Yeah.
no communities. So
Mhm.
everyone starts from zero. I don't have a large following now. I only have like 3,000 followers, but it starts somewhere. I started with zero. I remember the day when I looked at my followers and it was like 600. I'm like, oh my, when is it ever going to get to 1,000? Right.
Aw.
So we all start somewhere, and that community is what you nourish. You
Yeah.
put time, like I'm genuinely connecting with people. I'm DMing people to really say hi and hello, getting to know you and really interact genuinely to be friends. And
Mhm.
I think that's what community is about. You can build from scratch, and that's what I did. I knew nobody. Like, I lived in a foreign country with my husband, and it was just like me and him. I knew nobody, right?
Mhm.
We all started with that first client or
Yeah.
that first follower, and that community builds. And when you build that community, it gives you the confidence to do more, and it gives you the confidence to create more. And once you have that community,
Mhm.
it also fuels you.
Mm.
Everyone's rooting for each other, and everyone's becoming more creative as a collective.
Yeah. I love it. I experience that in my own community and also get inspired so much by the people in my community and how they show up and challenge me and cheer me on. So I think it's great. And you're right, we do start at zero and we put our little spark out there and it gets noticed by others. And I think that's just wonderful. So that's great. Um, you talked about living in a foreign country or living in Asia. How was that in terms of like sparking creativity for you living abroad?
Whew. Well, that's another whole story. Yeah. So, I grew up in Los Angeles, and it was completely unexpected.
Mhm.
Majored in economics. I interned at a prestigious, financial institution. I was like, looking at the corner office of my manager, how she makes millions and millions. And I just realized that wasn't happy for me. Like,
Mm.
I knew I would be financially okay if I went down that route. And I worked really, darn hard through
Yeah.
school to get there. But I didn't feel aligned. I felt out of alignment.
Mhm.
And that's when I actually decided to stop my finance major, and I moved to Asia because my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, they have a family business where was in Asia at the time. So I moved back with him
Mhm.
to a foreign country. And I think you get to design your life. You get to
Mhm.
do what you want to do. And that brings more creative energy into your life. I can create the life I want.
Mm.
I can do, I can do so many things. And as you age, you can do more things. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can be doing like 100 things. Like, what do you choose to do?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
Mhm.
I think, because I think I don't have as much fun when I just make money, but I have so much fun talking to you, right?
Yay. Oh, yay. Exactly. No, I love it. I love that creativity, you get to choose. It's like choose your own adventure almost in terms of life. And I love that you took that and ran with it and made your life one that fills you and aligns you with joy and prosperity. And I think that's so great. I love it. I love participating in it and getting to see how you've done it and the things that show up for you and how creativity has played a role in that. And I imagine, all through this pandemic, all of us have had to make some pretty big shifts in our life and kind of we run up against some everyday issues that we have to navigate. But what are some everyday issues that you've had to use creativity to solve?
Honestly, like you mentioned, when the pandemic first started,
Mhm.
I literally went out and bought sketchbooks with my daughter. So she sketchbook, we bought one for my mom too, and then we all drew like daily.
Oh,
It
wow.
it's really powerful, stress reducing.
Mhm.
Just, pen on paper or pencil on paper or
Mhm.
crayons, markers, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, it's just anything, it goes back to those, tools.
Mhm.
Anything creative that you enjoy doing, whatever that is, whether it's creating music or singing, or
Mhm.
just artistic things, whatever you enjoy doing, do them.
Yeah.
I recently had a client who has a full art studio, and
Mm.
she is so talented and artistic, and but she's had that studio for years and years, and she had a dream of having an Etsy shop and making art and selling them for years and years, and it just never happened.
Mhm.
So it's always us. Again, it comes back to that own. glass ceiling. I mean, she's amazing. She's a CFO at this nonprofit, and she has this passion for art, but she never felt fulfilled
Mm-hmm.
because she's not doing her artistic, creative things.
Yeah.
So,
It's so big. Like
yes. So,
finding those ways to be creative, to fulfill us when we
and it could be
don't.
so small. It could be so
Absolutely.
small. And once she gets that push, and it's just so different. You would live a life different. And anytime there's a transition, like right now, we're in the pandemic, a lot of people are pivoting. There's
Yeah.
life transitions going on everywhere, but you got to embrace them, because that's like when you go from a caterpillar to a
Mhm.
butterfly. That's when
Yes,
you have the chance to make something different out of your life.
absolutely. I love that image, the caterpillar to the butterfly. It's there's it's a process and there's some challenge and the end result, what a beautiful gift. I love it. So I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today about creativity. And I have one more question for you. What is your secret to creativity?
I think it's to believe. I,
Mm,
I
mhm,
think it's to believe, have absolute faith
mhm,
that anything is possible, and absolutely believe that there is always a way, and believe that by creating, more blessings are coming.
mm. Wonderful. Yes, I love it. I think that's like that's great. That's such a good secret, one that I haven't heard. Believe, having faith in creativity. It's wonderful. Well, thank you again for taking the time to chat with me. And if people want to learn more about the things you do, how to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
Absolutely. I'm very active on Instagram. My handle is MSLucyLiu. That's Miss Lucy Liu. And
Mhm.
I pretty much have the same handle everywhere. So you can look for me. I'm at lucyliucoaching.com. And you can check out my podcast, The Lucy Liu Show, which is a
Yes.
weekly dose of inspiration for filling your mind, business, and life.
Oh, I love it. That's fantastic. So thank you. And I will put all of this in the show notes so people can easily find you and get in touch if they have any questions. So thank you again for chatting about creativity.
Thank you again for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so like us on Facebook and Instagram. We are Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and your family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your comments, reviews, and questions. Tune in Tuesdays for a new episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.